Welcome back to another video.
Do you think it's
Yo. Dude, the Jim Bob thing. Fuck me.
oh
What's up, everybody?
The Resident Evil Requiem DLC is officially at the center of a pretty big leak right now, and it completely changes the conversation around what Capcom is planning for the future of the story. Ever since we got it announced, the community has been totally obsessed with trying to figure out what exactly is going to happen in this upcoming story expansion, but instead of another rumor, there was apparently an accidental slip-up from allegedly a high credible source that confirms that Ada Wong is stepping right back into the spotlight for this DLC. And if Ada Wong is officially back in the picture, it immediately reopens the biggest and most debated mystery from the end of the base game, Leon Kennedy's wedding ring. Ever since we had that reveal, everyone has been trying to figure out who he actually settled down with. Could it be Ada Wong? Is it someone else? Well, to make things even crazier, game director Koshi Nakanishi just did a brand new interview where he
I wonder if he married Ashley.
directly addresses the theories surrounding Leon's wife. So we're going to break it all down. Hit the sub button if you're excited for the Requiem DLC, and let's get into it. Okay, so let's start off by talking about the DLC leak slash rumor. This is coming from multiple sources. First, we have Spanish creator Stevie Wonder and also aesthetic gamer Dusk Golem talked about it as well. Both of them took to Twitter to confirm something huge regarding this upcoming DLC for Requiem. Now, what makes this, situation really unique is actually how the information got out. This wasn't a data mine or an anonymous source. This actually was a mistake made publicly by someone with direct ties to Capcom. Now, I don't know who this person was, but I'm going to take their word for it. This is apparently somebody that is close to Capcom. So Dusk Golem said on Twitter, shout out to him. He said, okay, so I sat on this for a bit and thank you to Stevie Wonder for bringing it to my attention. There was a slight slip up somewhere. It's an unintentional leak. This wasn't from his sources, he said, but Ada Wong is very likely in the Resident Evil Requiem DLC. That's all the context. It's not my claims. It's from something that went public a bit accidentally. I think it was an honest mistake, so I don't want to get anyone in trouble, but yeah, paints Ada being involved in Requiem's DLC in some way. Now, Stevie Wonder, the person that discovered this leak, he said this on Twitter. As we said in the previous Drycast official podcast by Mr. Dry ES, it's very likely that Ada Wong will be in the DLC for Resident Evil Requiem. As we mentioned, and as Aesthetic Gamer points out, no further details can be given. Now, somebody responded to Dusk Golem and said, I'm curious what kind of leak it was, to which he responded, yeah, the problem here is it was in public. Giving a hint points directly to who leaked it, who has ties to Capcom, and it honestly appears to be a mistake. The only thing that had come to hinting it is it would get the person in serious trouble for a mistake. Now, Stevie Wonder also was asked about the source, to which he said, we cannot, and you will understand when it's official, both for the confirmation of the leak or if it turns wrong, not fake, wrong. Also why we cannot say. And then he said, the source is direct. Somebody then followed up and said, is there anything else you can say about this leak that doesn't affect you or the other side? To which Stevie Wonder responded, she may be there. We do not know the role. The source is legit and direct, and it can be true due to a slip, or it can be wrong due to a lapsus or mistake, but never fake. We will see. To which there was a follow-up that said, just one question, if you can answer it. Do you know if there's any other information that mentions answers? Like if we might get an answer to something in this possible DLC, it could be anything. To which Stevie Wonder responded, the point is that this thing was so accidental that we do not know anything else. It came by accident, literally. Now, Dusk Golem was then asked some questions regarding this leak as well, to which they said, the leak is definitely real, like undoubtedly real, but to see how it comes together, I don't have a good grasp of RE9's DLC at all or what's in it, but this specific thing is an actual mistake someone slipped up with. There was then a follow-up question that said, so you think she will 100% be in the DLC after this leak, or is there chances of something changing? To which Dusk responded, I can't say 100% since I don't have any real serious grasp right now on what RE9's DLC is, but it is 100% true that someone with ties to Capcom slipped up and might have spilled the tea a bit on accident. So yes, it is still in the territory of like leak slash rumor. I would take it with a grain of salt at this point, but what it sounds like is they're telling us that someone closely affiliated with the team or, with Capcom accidentally spilled the tea on Ada Wong's involvement for this new DLC. Again, things might be different, things might have changed. It really is hard saying. Now, if Ada Wong is officially stepping into the spotlight for this story expansion, it immediately sets off some alarm bells regarding Leon's current situation. Resident Evil Requiem really split its narrative beautifully between the newcomer Grace Ashcroft, giving us that pure like horror experience, like survival horror at its absolute best. And of course, Leon Kennedy brought RPGs, tanks, freaking ray guns, all that stuff just to be able to, DLC. Is it likely that we are going to hear more about Leon's backstory in his personal life? The dynamic between Leon and Ada has been a core pillar of the franchise for a long time, like for years, decades. Requiem showed us a Leon who
Nah, Ashley in the remix, the hottest RE character. I could see if you're really into Asians, but Ashley, she's kind of a fucking babe in the remake, dude.
has fundamentally changed. Bringing Ada Wong back into the fold, like right after we learned that Leon is married, is a deliberate narrative choice, and they're teasing everyone. You can't put Ada Wong and a married Leon in the same storyline without addressing the elephant in the room, and that is she the one who is married to him, or is she showing up to complicate his new life with someone else? Well, this brings us directly to the man in charge, Resident Evil Requiem director Koshi Nakanishi. Now, Eurogamer recently sat down with the director, and the debate over Leon's wife has gotten so loud that even Eurogamer asked the question to try to settle the debate once and for all. Now, surprisingly, Nakanishi actually responded. He didn't give a straight name, but his quotes are pretty revealing. Now, speaking to Eurogamer, Nakanishi said this, and I quote, "The answer will become clear someday, but not just yet. What we wanted to convey in the final scene is simple. Leon now has a place to go home to, and we hope you can imagine the peaceful moments he spends there." Well, let's pause and talk about that first sentence. The answer will become clear someday, but not just yet. He isn't saying it's a permanent mystery. He's outright telling us and confirming that there is a definitive answer and an actual canon truth to who Leon is married to. And Capcom is simply waiting for the right
I have a funny feeling it would be Ashley.
moment to reveal it. Nakanishi then continued on, giving us a deep dive into Leon's mindset. He told Eurogamer this: "Leon is a man who says very little about the things that truly matter, but he would sacrifice himself without a second thought to save a life right in front of him. So what does that ring signify? Resolve or a vow?" Which is something that I didn't really think about. Like, it is an interesting way to frame the ring. Like, asking if it signifies like resolve or a vow, Nakanishi really is opening up the door to the idea that the ring might not even be a traditional marriage. Could it be a promise made to someone he lost, perhaps a symbol of a new life he's trying to protect? Or is it a literal vow of marriage? He then finished off his statement by saying this: "He may never voice the answer himself, but for now, after finishing the long battle, he has a place to go home to. Isn't that enough?" Now, whenever it comes to the narrative aspect, like, that is a beautiful send-off for this character who's been through absolute hell and back. But from a fan perspective, no, that's absolutely not enough, and Capcom knows it. Koshi Nakanishi knows exactly what they're doing. This is them deliberately teasing the community. There's no ands, ifs, or buts about it. But now the question really becomes, when is someday? Could that someday be for the Requiem DLC? If Ada Wong is confirmed to be in this expansion, exploring Leon's personal life alongside her appearance would make perfect sense. Imagine a DLC where we play as Ada Wong working behind the scenes, and then the narrative explores her current relationship with Leon. If they're married, this DLC is the perfect place to confirm it. Now, if they aren't, the DLC could serve as like the emotional closure to their decade-long dynamic, finally explaining why Leon moved on and found his current place to go home with someone else. Now, I do think we have to look at this from like a franchise perspective, because revealing the identity of Leon Kennedy's wife could be a massive like marketing point. They might just be playing coy right now because they're saving that reveal for a future mainline game. As much as I want this new DLC to answer the question, I think a part of me, kind of thinks Capcom might hold on to this secret until RE10 or RE11 or, whatever they decide to do in the future. But with Ada Wong slipping into the DLC, the chances of getting a breadcrumb of truth are a lot higher than I thought. What the DLC is only half the battle. Like, it's not going to be ready for the early summer release window. But whenever
Well, that's interesting. Okay, Wes Watson arrested again.
A woman, the same one that he proposed to just the other day. He beat her down. He held her captive. And all of this while his bitch ass security guard and butler, those little bitches, sat around and watched and did nothing to stop it. The state of Florida has come down on him hard with 5 felony charges. And let me tell you, looking at these charges, that little Peggy bitch, he's not gonna be getting out of prison anytime soon. Wait until I tell you this story.
This guy's an idiot.
So you guys remember just the other day, I showed you Peggy.
Dude, it's bad enough getting accused of beating your girlfriend. If you beat your girlfriend and you have face tattoos, that becomes a much bigger fucking problem for you, let me tell you.
Putting a ring on this girl like an asshole, only knowing the girl for only a month, right? Well, that same girl that he got down on his knees and put the ring on is the same girl just a couple days later may be the one to put Peggy in prison for a really long time when I tell you this story. Now, before I tell this story, I want to say, Danny, a fellow journalist, right? I'm going to put the link to her video in the comments because she's the one who broke this story. Days prior
J Mango,
Peggy
or
getting
Mangu,
arrested,
what's up?
right? We're, going to the place where we all know he belongs. She called me and she told me the situation with Megan. She did such a great job in digging and finding out information. And she told me everything that was going to end up happening as a result of what he did to her. And everything that she stated in her video, I can confirm is true because I saw photos, video, audio of the entire thing behind the scenes. Now, we can't show you, the photos and the video and the audio due to privacy concerns. But now, let me tell you the story of what happened that night. So just a few nights ago, after he proposed to her, Megan and Peggy, they had an argument. And Megan decided to go out to a basketball game. She posted a photo, a little video clip of herself on her social media of her out at the game. Wes saw it, and he freaked the fuck out because in the video, she's showing, her boobs. And Wes is the one who paid for her implant surgery. So when he saw it, he calls her up and he goes, "Listen, you bitch, how dare you go out to a basketball game and show off those tits like a sharmuta. In the meantime, I paid for
This guy is, like, actually fucking insane.
them and you're going to show that shit off to another man." Then after that, he blew the hell up out of her phone because we've seen in the past what he does. He calls over and over and over like a little bitch. We've seen this behavior from him before. Well, when he got her on the phone, he screamed on the top.
I honestly do not understand that weird behavior of, like, not being comfortable with your girlfriend, like, being seen in public by anybody. Like, if I had it my way, I'd literally walk my girlfriend around naked on a fucking leash outside. I'd be like, "Yep, this is mine. Pretty awesome," Like, it's weird to me that you wouldn't, like, take pride in who you're dating and want to show them off and shit. Like, just weird.
Top of his lungs, and he says, "You little bitch, you better get your ass home or I'm coming after you. I'm coming after your family. And not only that, I'm going to cut off those tits on you that I put on." And let me tell you, I heard and I saw this scene. Okay? So when I'm telling you this is true, it's 100% true.
Calling her nonstop, threatening her to get her ass over there, and if she didn't, there was going to be a fucking problem. He also threatened other members of her family, saying that they were also going to be done for. He was saying things like he was going to cut her tits off of her body since he decided to pay for them.
So Megan,
Literally just for wearing a low-cut dress. I hope this guy just gets put away. Like, he's kind of a fucking asshole. Would you want to live in a society where all men walk their women naked on a leash? I think I'd prefer to be the only one with that privilege.
she gets home. I wish she hadn't gone back to Peggy's house that night because it could have avoided this whole situation. But if you think about it, we all know in the end, this shit could have happened when you're dealing with Wes Watson. So she gets home and they continue their argument. Peggy gets really pissed off. He's trying to steal that ring back, which he ended up getting charged for, right? And they end up in a fight. He beats her down. She tries to run outside. He's trying to pull her. He hits her, right? A bunch of times. All of this whole scene, this whole chaos scene is going on while his bitch ass butler Jose and his security guard are sitting and fucking watching. Now, what I've been thinking is when the cops got there, was there security camera?
Yeah, I heard about the new season of Invincible. I'm looking forward to that.
Where they saw this entire scene in order to hit him with 5 felonies, which I'm going to go over with you guys here in a moment.
When she got there, the fight obviously got worse, and he decided to hold her hostage, didn't let her leave, and then proceeded to literally beat her ass. Yes, he beat her ass, you guys, in front of Jose and the bodyguard, while Megan was screaming, crying, begging people to help her, begging the people who were around to step in and help her, and they did absolutely fucking nothing.
So eventually she ended up finding a way to leave, which I believe her cousin picked her up outside Peggy's house, took her to the emergency room, and they ended up filing charges against Peggy. Now, I've seen photos, some photos, not all of them, of the injuries on the girl. I saw a cut, a gash in her head. I saw bruising on her right cheek. And I know that she has a black eye now. I didn't see any of the body injuries, but I saw her face. So obviously this happened, and obviously he wouldn't have been charged with 5 felonies as a result if this wasn't real.
She finally...
Like, I think you have to be a genuine piece of shit to, like, just viciously beat up a chick. Like, especially for something, like, so fucking stupid like this. Like, if a girl tried to shoot and kill you or something, yeah, like, knock her out, you know? Like, do whatever you have to do to survive. Even then, if I was in a situation like that, it would just feel like really fucking wrong just hitting a girl as hard as you can. But like for something stupid like this, where you're just upset about like the way she dressed in public, like you have to be such a fucking loser. Like just so cowardly and fucking stupid to like beat up someone like that much weaker than you that can't defend themselves. It's like beating up a fucking kid because like they said a swear word or something.
Got to the ER. Megan finally got to the ER, and when she arrived, she obviously had a black eye, you know, like I said, gashes all in her forehead.
So the state of Florida has come down hard on this piece of shit because you know why? They have to be tired of his antics, of his bullshit that he's been doing and running around town in Florida doing since he's been there. The traffic stops, how he acts to the police, the 7-foot monster, all the other things that he's been involved in since he's been there, and now the sugar on the fucking cake. Wait, not the sugar on the cake, the cherry on top, beating down a woman. So they put on him 5 felony charges. And you guys can't forget, he's already out on bail for what he did to this 7-foot monster.
This guy has to be like the dumbest motherfucker of all time. Like just for that, just for being that stupid, the guy should be put away for life.
DurianRider, 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 DurianRider.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Thanks for the donation, 21st. But yeah, this guy's already, you know, on like out on bail for some assault charge, and then he like beats the ever-loving shit out of his girlfriend for dressing a certain way in public. Like, you don't deserve to be a free person if you're that stupid. Like, so outrageously fucking dumb. So, yeah, he should be, like, just put away. Don't let him see the light of day.
Monster. So having 5 felonies on him. And if you look at the court documents here, under the bail status, they have him listed as a high bail amount or a flight risk. But still, we don't know if he's even going to get bail because he hasn't seen the judge yet, which we're going to find out. Personally, I don't think he's going to get bail on any amount of money, considering he's got 5 felonies and the other case going on. And I'm going to close by saying something, okay? This whole scene, I heard him, I saw him, okay? And this guy's a fucking animal. And the threats he told the family, the girl saying, I'm going to cut those fucking tits out. I mean, we've seen him act like an asshole all over social media.
21st, only $2. This is why they call him Sugar Boy. Is that Captain Crunch? I can't remember what Captain Crunch looks like. No. Or is it? No, it's different. They have Captain Crunch, like Rice Krispie treats. Never thought of doing that. I don't know what that is, but that is a lot of sugar.
Welcome to my kitchen. What time is it? It's 9 o'clock. So my kitchen drawers. And then we've got this. Welcome to Australia, mate. Look at that. Redback spider. Whoa.
Is that Black Widow?
Big. Mama. See what it does. Whoa. They call them a bluff. Yeah, I love it, man. These spiders are awesome. They eat the cockroaches and stuff. This spider's been here for just over a year.
I don't think I'd want to live like this.
And yeah, it eats a lot of stuff. So I'll give it a bit of water in there as well. Keep it hydrated. But yeah, if you see spiders, man, just leave them. Like redbacks do really well inside. There she is down there. Can I zoom in? So yeah, they
What is this shit on the floor?
eat, this one's a big one. It's gonna get bigger. They even eat like small mice and stuff, man. So you know, cats.
I'm surprised he's able to convince women to live with him when he lets spiders live in his house.
Shoot up some stuff.
Is this like an Australian thing where Australian women aren't afraid of spiders, but like all other women on the planet are afraid of spiders? I have to ask Pat that. She'd know.
Stuff in there. So yeah, that's the deal. They're beautiful spiders, man. But yeah, they're harmless, man. Right? Don't touch them, but they're harmless. They're cool. Just leave them be, mate. Leave them be. Don't use pesticide, man. Pesticide, cancer risk. Spiders, good to go, bro. No one got cancer.
Weird. I think Australian women aren't actually afraid of spiders. So maybe that's just an Australian thing. I can guarantee you, if you are a dude and you let spiders run around everywhere in your house, there ain't no girls who want to go in your house. It's a nice pigeon. Wow. Oh. What's he eating? He really likes that. I like pigeons. They're nice. Funny how they peck. Look at them pecking. When did I poop last? I think I had to poop this morning. I bought new toilet paper so I could keep my bum clean.
Less Chinese people are actually coming to Thailand now as a holiday destination. Like the numbers have decreased drastically, even though there's still a few million coming. And I was wondering what the reasons were, and they were explaining the prices have gone up, securities, there's been like scam stuff going around, so that scared away some Chinese people. And then also saw in the comments of that TikTok video saying that Thailand thinks they're like #1 for holiday destination, so they haven't put a lot of effort. They haven't put more effort because there's already sort of people talking about Thailand, oh Thailand this, Thailand that. But the upcoming countries are, you know, Vietnam, Myanmar maybe, not Myanmar, Singapore, Korea, Japan, who are coming up above Thailand now. More Chinese people are actually going to Japan. Actually, not just Chinese people, but yeah. Prices here are going up, and actually in China, because people are maybe earning less money or there's a economic whatever, less people are going to Thailand. China has actually made a space for Chinese people to experience Thailand in China, so they don't have to travel around. And they've built these temple like areas. You can take pictures like as if you are in Thailand.
Do you scrub your hole in the shower? Yes, I wash my hole in the shower.
So that Chinese people don't have to fly to Taiguo just for the experience.
Yeah, 21st sent me their OnlyFans vids and made me watch. I was kind of surprised. DurianRider's very lazy when he has sex. For a guy who likes to run and bike so much, I was surprised how he's very passive and kind of just sits back and lets the girl do whatever. It's pretty gross. All right, well, thanks for the donation, 21st.
Arg, Black Widow spiders gross.
That wasn't a Black Widow. That was a Redback, which apparently are still deadly. But yeah, pretty gross. Thanks for the donation, Dodo. Dodo donated $2. Let me see.
Billionaires, voters over billionaires, voters over billionaires, voters over billionaires.
APAC staffers lock the door and call the cops on Chicago voters. Voters are looking for answers. About 20 million APAC is funneling through dark money super PACs to try to buy Chicago elections.
Over billionaires, APAC out of Illinois, APAC out of Illinois, APAC out of Illinois, APAC out of Illinois.
I don't know what the fuck that is. U.S. Army is very close to fully fielding its first hypersonic missile. Lieutenant Gen Frank Lonzo says, with initial batteries expected to be operational within weeks. This comes despite Pentagon assessments that additional testing is still needed before deployment. That's kind of cool. From what I understand, one big problem with hypersonic missiles is that because it takes time for the explosive to actually like explode, it's very difficult creating an explosive that will actually detonate at a proper speed and time with some of those missiles. Missiles is cool. Missiles go far and go boom. Bernie Sanders, AIPAC is spending millions in Democratic primaries to smear critics of Netanyahu's genocidal policies. So tell us you're a gay retard without telling us you're a gay retard. It's time to kick AIPAC and other billionaire-funded super PACs out of Democratic primaries. Shouldn't you be yelling at kids on your front porch while drinking whiskey or something, Grandpa? What are you doing on the Twitter again? Who taught you how to use your phone? Chinese agent in the Capitol. Oh, yeah.
Public? Excuse me, can we ask a question? How do we know? They haven't said. So I have a question that I'm posing, which is, we just had a 2.
No questions. Just don't live anymore. Thanks for the donation, Dodo.
Hey, what are your thoughts on going to university? What if it's for STEM or being a dentist or doctor? Is university worth it? Why are all the men at universities complete bitches, especially the smart schools? They're all twink stalks and Asians. It's nuts.
Well, if you're going into STEM, at least for the time being, it's worth it. Who the fuck knows what's going to happen when AI becomes more of a thing? Your degree very well may likely be completely worthless. The next thing where I think a lot of big high-paying jobs are on the chopping block, it's going to be lawyers. I see that becoming a thing where AI is probably going to do away with lawyers. Yeah, for the time being, if you're going into STEM, yeah, university's worth it. Why are all the men at universities complete bitches, especially smart schools, all twink storks? Well, I mean, universities are just fucking gay at this point. Like, it's just, they're just communist, you know, shitholes. So, who do you expect to go there? Thanks for the donation though, Pika. There's no right or wrong answer with, like, school necessarily being worth it. Like, you have to look at it like this, too. I've seen some doctors talk about how it wasn't worth it for them to become a doctor because, like, the amount of debt they had to take out just to go through school, and then they end up having to pay off that debt over the course of, like, 20 or 30 years. So, like, their life doesn't even really start, like, becoming debt-free where they have any real true wealth, where they're not, like, some fucking wage slave, basically, where you just have to focus on paying off your debt for, like, a couple decades. It's kind of crazy. So, it just kind of depends on what you want to do with your life, really. It's all a pee-pee poo-poo bum-bum, you know? Thanks for the donation, though, Pika. Dodo donatillers, they expect it to go on a long time, huh? Pentagon seeks more than $200 billion for the Iran war, Washington Post reports. Well, if we put more money and resources on it, it'll probably be over sooner, so, That's why you kind of pay for a high-class whore. She's able to get the job done quicker. You want somebody to be sucking your dick for like an hour? So you pay the good money so that you'll come in 5 minutes. What's this?
This man bet his life savings in a prediction market wager against Doge. All $342,196. Alan Cole is a 37-year-old tax economist. This man bet his life savings in a prediction market wager against Doge, all $342,196. Alan Cole is a 37-year-old tax economist in Washington with a mortgage and a young child. He considered himself a plain vanilla investor until Elon Musk's Department of Government Efficiency came roaring into Washington last year. Suddenly,
wow, he was sure of himself.
There were people willing to bet that the world's richest man would transform and shrink the federal government. Cole took the opposite position. If federal spending in each quarter of 2025 exceeded federal spending in the fourth quarter of 2024, he would win big. In Cole's analysis, that was basically a guaranteed win. Even if Musk cut federal contracts and shrank the federal workforce, which he did, the government still has rising costs for Social Security, Medicare, and interest. And that left no real plausible path to overall cuts in federal spending. Cole bounced his thesis off of other people in Washington's fiscal policy community. He consulted his wife and got her on board. Then he took the lead. The government published the final figures on February 20th, and it wasn't even close. In every quarter, spending rose above the target, just like he had predicted. Cole collected $470,300 for a profit of more than $128,000.
Wow. It was that easy.
Or 37%. As he told me, there's a little bit of that feeling of vindication.
Jeez. That is fucking badass. Save this and cite it in your debate with Destiny. U.S. assesses China not planning to invade Taiwan in 2027. Oh, yeah, I'm saving that one. Oh, that is so fucking good. Yes, that is so good. Get fucked, fucking cuck. Venezuela, Iran, yeah, right. That's why we do it. Thanks for the donation, Dodo. Human supremacy can suck my ass. Donate $2. She's pretty cute. Your thoughts? Let me see.
Happy Fun Fit Friday. Let's pick out a fun fit to wear today. I want to start doing Fun Fit Fridays because I need to challenge myself to wear something fun at least once a week and something that I don't wear very often. So let's try and pick out
No.
a fun outfit. I just found these shorts in my
She looks like somebody who is older than she is.
drawer, and I think I want to wear these today. I haven't worn them in forever, and I feel like they're perfect for Valentine's Day. Shorts are on. Now I need to pick out a shirt. I ended up just picking out a white shirt because the shorts are already kind of...
I'll show you what women should wear for Valentine's Day. One of these. That's what women should wear for Valentine's Day.
a lot, but now I need to accessorize. I have this gold necklace with a pink heart at the end, so I feel like I want to wear this. Of course, to finish off the fit, I have to use some fun perfume. This one smells like peaches, and I love it. Here's the final fit for my
No perfume, just sweat.
Fun Fit Friday, and stay tuned.
Yeah, I don't think she's that good looking. Thanks for the donation, though. Human supremacy can suck my ass. Dodo donated $2. Let me see. Majority of Iranian national football players who had sought asylum have decided to return home after threats reportedly made against their families. Yeah, that's what the Iranian regime does. And again, that's why Trump's fucking based. Fucking retarded, dude. Trump can't blockade love. There are 2 million, or there are millions around the world who love the Cuban people. A people who have fought capitalism. I don't know if there's... Well, like, the amount of Cuban athletes that have fled the country... Like, I think there's more people from Cuba who have literally tried to become superstar athletes just to get the opportunity to compete internationally so that they could leave Cuba for good and claim asylum somewhere else. There have been, I'm pretty sure, like, one of, like, the entirety of one of the Cuban teams for, like, the Olympics, I think they, like, literally all left. They never returned to Cuba. I know there's also been a few Cuban baseball players who just left. They never returned to Cuba. They just disappeared, and then they claimed asylum, like in the United States and in Europe and shit. They fucking hate communism. They're all fucking poor as shit, and they live under a fascist dictatorship. They hate it. Like, they try to fucking build boats out of, like, fucking banana peels so that they can make it to fucking Florida and get the fuck out of Cuba. Fought imperialism, apartheid, and Zionism. Like, what the fuck are these... Code Pink are just such a bunch of fucking tards, dude.
I would demand that my military join forces with Hezbollah to defend my country. That's what I would demand. But
they literally have no idea. No clue. Yeah, Lebanon literally wants to ban Hezbollah. They're they're the mafia. They've murdered politicians. They were responsible for that massive fucking explosion, in Beirut that happened? They sex traffic women. They're criminal fucking thugs.
And by the way, the leaders of Lebanon, you think, like the leaders of UAE, you think if you make a deal with the Israelis, you're going to be safe?
oh, they're always going to come
Go
for
ask
you.
the United Arab Emirates. So what happened to Dubai and all those places?
Bingo.
They thought, oh, if we make a deal with the Israelis, then they'll protect us. No, the Israelis convinced the Americans to only defend Israel, and UAE got hit all over the place.
They don't know where these countries are on the map. Like what they're saying, they literally do not even understand, like, geography. They couldn't find any of these countries on the map. They're that stupid.
And their pact with Israel only screwed them over. And these idiots in Lebanon, not the Hezbollah, but the leaders, are like, oh yeah, if we just help them kill our own people, then later they'll be not.
I don't know what the fuck they mean, kill their own people. So, first of all, Hezbollah's a Muslim terrorist group, and Lebanon was majority Christian. So, like, it's weird that they're saying kill their own people. And again, they're trying to ban Hezbollah.
Nice to us. No, brother, after they take southern Lebanon, guess what they're going to take next? Northern.
The Young Turks are, they should not be allowed to do news. California's unfinished wildlife bridge to nowhere tops 100 million. Is that real? Yes, it's real. Wow. Dude. California is retarded. This is why you pay the like one of the highest tax rates. Well, isn't it the highest tax rate in like all of the United States? Yeah. That is what liberal shitholes fucking do. That's shocking. Water. My goodness. He always does this. He always scratches trees. Wow, cats are amazing. Thanks for the donation, Dodo.
Would Pat like you to share her with Isaac? She strikes me as someone who would want to be used around and Isaac fucking her anus while you get her mouth, or she may just decide she only wants Isaac's stick while you jerk your little peepee in the corner.
First of all, Pat is my property. So none of that. And secondly, no. Pat knows she's my property and she wants to be my property. Thanks for the donation, 21st.
Dude, watch at 3518 for a bit. Professor Dave is so fucked when it comes to Israel. You think he's a communist, or would you not go that far?
Hey.
Well, he's basically a cucked beta male bitch. His wife is Palestinian. That's where that bullshit's coming from.
Way at the bottom, we have one voice of reason. Until there is any evidence of these anti-Semitic rants, I'm just going to assume he was criticizing Israel's deliberate deception and genocide supporters jumped on him. Many such cases. Ding, ding, ding. This user gets a gold star. What is the real reason for this Reddit thread? It's given away by referencing my Twitter activity surrounding the early phase of the current genocide Israel has been committing against Palestinians.
Yes, the genocide where there's been a disproportionate amount of adult male deaths. Right, because that's what you'd expect when you're indiscriminately killing people. You'd primarily target adult men who are military age.
For the past 2.5 years. I had my Twitter account suspended because I was spending large amounts of time countering.
So, like, again, like, I don't even have to listen to this bullshit. This guy's an anti-Semite, and he knows he's full of shit. He's made videos, like, that are kind of contradicting the whole Palestinian narrative. He's essentially acknowledged that Jews have a very strong claim to the land of Israel. He's admitted they've lived there historically. His wife is Palestinian. He's a beta male cuck bitch. His wife wants him to say anti-Semitic bullshit, so he's a good little puppy for his wife and does what he says like a good little bitch. That's all there is to it. She's probably gonna break up with him and leave him at some point. But yeah, we know the whole story. This guy will not debate this topic, by the way. I've challenged him to a debate. He saw my message. Never responded. The guy's just... He knows he's full of shit. He's not a dumb guy. He knows he's wrong, and he will not defend his position in a debate. So he's just an anti-Semite, and he's knowingly and willingly spreading anti-Semitic propaganda because that's what his wife wants him to do. So, yeah, he's a piece of shit. And, yeah, he's absolutely a useful idiot. Thanks for the donation, Unicorn Jizz.
Media. But this one was on a completely different level. And let me tell you, you go to prison, anyone will tell you, you don't want to be a PDF file, and you don't want to be a woman beater. And let me tell you, they're all waiting for this asshole there, because if you don't think they know what this asshole's been up to, he served before 8-9 years in prison. He goes this time. It's going to be a different story for this asshole.
Yeah, they ought to put the guy away. He's really great at fucking his own life up. Really good at it. I think you can just expect that anybody with face tattoos is going to fuck their own life up. They wouldn't have gotten the face tattoos.
I don't know what the case is that this is good for the United States. I don't even, no one's even attempting to make that case.
So stupid. Skip the introduction.
Morning's been out on Uncensored. Tucker, how are you?
It's such a serious topic, and then you play the Ted Cruz clip, and I laugh. He already took me on head-to-head last summer. I'm not running for president, so I don't know why he would be running for president against me. But thank you. And Pierce, as I have said publicly a number of times, you have been, even though we disagree on a lot of core issues, you have been a champion for free speech for years, especially as free speech, the allowable window of free speech shrinks, and you've been one of the world's great champions of it. So I'm not surprised that you're getting attacked for that, but good for you for what you're doing. Thank you.
Well, we're going to come to some of those attacks a little later. Just in relation to Ted Cruz, I mean, I watched that interview that you did with him where he had no idea how many people live in Iran. And as you rightly pointed out, that ought to be probably a basic prerequisite of knowing about a country before you may wish to, for
Pat is my girlfriend. I love Pat.
example, attack a country. And it may be that him now responding in the way that he is because you embarrassed him so much that day. But in relation to his claim that you are the single most dangerous demagogue in America, how do you respond to that?
Well, I'm honored that I beat Mamdani and AOC and the entire Democratic Party. I mean, this is a conservative Republican senator from Texas telling you that I am the most dangerous. Well, why is that? I have no allegiance to any foreign country, only my own, the one in which I was born, unlike Ted Cruz, who's from Canada. Why would I be the most dangerous? And in fact, I'm not a demagogue. I don't seek to divide people. It pains me to see people divided. It's against my religion, and it's bad for my country. He's mad at me, well, yeah, because his interview didn't go well, as you said. That's true, I think. But he's actually most mad at me because I'm criticizing our alliance with Israel. And I'm not doing that because I'm getting anything out of it. I'm certainly not. Or because I hate Israel. I don't and never have. But because I don't think it helps the United States. And I've been saying that for the last year to...
Clearly helps the United States. You can just see what's happening with China.
Increasing irritation from agents of Israel like Ted Cruz. And now this war kind of proves the point. Unfortunately, I wish we hadn't come to this, but...
Honestly, I hope a war with China never breaks out. That'll be really bad for the steroid market.
This is so destructive to American national interest that it's hard to believe destroying American national interest, weakening the United States, wasn't part of the point. How could it not have been? And the last point I would make about relevant knowledge of a country you seek to overthrow is that, like, looking at maps doesn't tell you the...
As soon as I get a whiff of a war with China about to break out, I'm gonna buy like several years worth of fucking steroids because I know it's gonna dry up.
Whole story, but it tells you part of the story. And at the eastern end of the Persian Gulf is a strait called Hormuz, through which 20% of the world's energy flows, and a huge percentage of its fertilizer and sulfur and petrochemicals and things that we need for civilization. And if you shut that down, the world economy tanks. And by the way, if you take out the government...
Strait of Hormuz isn't shut down.
...that controls one half of that strait, and that government is replaced by warring tribes, a civil war, then you open it up to piracy. And anybody with a $400 drone can prevent an oil tanker from getting through the strait. So chaos is actually the enemy of commerce, as are, terrorist regimes, but chaos is actually even more of a threat because you cannot meaningfully negotiate with pirates, even with the Houthis. So, what was the plan? What was the plan to overthrow the government of Iran or even attack it in a meaningful way without jeopardizing core American interests? And the answer is there never was a plan because the people who thought this up don't care.
The primary concern is a war with China. Iran is small fish. This is all about setting up the dominoes so that they can topple China or prevent them from ever even trying to invade Taiwan.
About core American interests. And the net effect is to hand the Middle East to the Chinese, which is what is in process of happening. And I hope for the sake of the United States and the world that we can stop that. But the truth is...
Israel genocide, 100,000 people that have nothing to do with Hamas. Let's not forget 30,000 innocent babies killed. Uh-oh. Someone's a gay retard. Isn't the, Palestinian Health Authority, which is run by Hamas, haven't they only calculated deaths, what is it, 67,000 now? So where are you getting the 100,000 figure? Isn't the total, and that's the total calculated deaths. And that's Hamas. So Hamas, that has every political interest to inflate casualty figures as much as possible, aren't even claiming 100,000 deaths. So you made up that number. Secondly, even according to Hamas themselves, they revised their casualty figures where they got rid of a ton of female and child deaths, and they've clearly shown there's a disproportionate amount of adult male deaths. So Israel is targeting Hamas members. If you look at the militant to civilian casualty ratio, it's what you'd expect in urban combat. It is nothing approaching anything that you'd see from a genocide. So, I don't know what you think we do here, but we don't spread communist and terrorist propaganda, so why don't you go play fucking Xbox or something? See you later, dipshit.
Our real allies in the region are the 6 Gulf monarchies that control a lot of the world's energy. And by the way, they're pro-American and decent people, as you know, because you and I had lunch there. This is a nice part of the world. It's being destroyed. Yeah, these are our allies. We have bases in these countries for a reason, not just to protect Israel, but to protect the Straits of Hormuz. We haven't been able to defend these countries to the extent that I think they thought we would be able to. We've moved a lot of the anti-missile defense that might have protected them to Israel. And so for them, at the end of all of this, the question is going to be, do we allow the Americans to come back and occupy bases on the Persian Gulf? What's in it for us? We just got bombed for it. No one protected us. Our energy infrastructure is damaged. Our economy is offline for months as we rebuild it. In the case of Dubai, it's a branding disaster. Like, there's no upside. And so at that point, the Chinese, the world's largest economy, kind of sat this out on the sidelines, said basically,
China's is the world's largest economy. Okay, right. That's why their GDP per capita is 1/10 that of the United States, right? And by the way, that's assuming China's GDP figures are even remotely accurate, which they're not. They lie about their GDP figures. It's all fabricated nonsense.
nothing, may be called on to negotiate some kind of peaceful resolution to this. The Chinese, not the US, the Chinese. And then it naturally follows that China, which is the largest trading partner of every country on both sides of the Persian Gulf, would become the dominant power in the Persian Gulf. It would become Chinese. So, like, if you thought about this
No.
for 2 minutes before advocating for it, you might arrive at that conclusion, or at least conclude that's possible. That could happen. If killing an 80...
So please explain to me why China has been pressuring Iran to negotiate with the United States? Like, nothing he's saying makes any sense.
6-year-old religious leader didn't cause a spontaneous creation of a pro-Western government, which was apparently Ted Cruz's plan. If that didn't work, what would happen? Well, China would take over. And so anyone who didn't think that through is either not qualified to lead anything, including one half of the state of Texas. That person is probably actively working against America's...
How the hell would China take over Iran? Explain to me how that would fucking happen. Is China going to invade Iran now? When's that going to happen? Are we going to have to come back in like a few months or a year or two to like see you say, oh, I guess China didn't take over Iran?
Core long-term interests. I mean, I don't know what other conclusion to reach.
It's been reported that you described the...
Did you hear Pakistan struck a hospital in Afghanistan? Well, I know Pakistan's at war with Afghanistan. I didn't hear them striking a hospital. Who cares? Just let the dum-dums just, blow each other up.
The attacks, when they first happened, as evil and dangerous. Is that true, and is that a reflection of how you felt in that moment when you heard it had finally happened?
I got a text from someone I've known for many years right when I woke up and said, what do you think of this? And I said, evil and disgusting, actually, is what I said. And I wrote it to John Carl, who's a reporter at ABC News, who I know.
I don't even know if there really are hospitals in Afghanistan because, like, one, there aren't any female physicians. They're not allowed to be doctors. So women can't even get medical treatment because that would mean somebody would have to see their boobs or something. And all the dudes there are gay, so I'd imagine guys are just going to the hospital to get their dick sucked or some shit. They also have trade restrictions, so they can't even get medical supplies. I don't know how meaningful it is that Pakistan bombed a hospital. I would, like... Pakistan isn't the most moral country or anything, but like I would imagine if they bombed a hospital and it was deliberate, it probably wasn't a real hospital.
Known since the early 90s. I had no idea this was some kind of on the record thing. He immediately went on breaking news and reported that. I had no desire to get that out there. I want to present my views in a more cogent, thoughtful way than just growling right when I wake up in response to the news on my phone. But yes, I'm not running away from what I said. That was my initial reaction. I thought this was a disaster for American interests. I thought that for many years. I've advocated against this. I advocated against a war in Iran.
Dude, I was surprised. Gas is so fucking expensive now. It literally doubled. I had to pay $20 for just 10 liters. So now filling my bikes up for a full tank is $40. It used to be $20 for a full fill-up for me, but now it's 40. Like, holy fuck. It's like paying car prices for gas for my motorcycle. But if I had a car, holy crap. That would be like $120 for a fucking fill-up. Just nuts. Maybe 160, depending on the tank. But yeah, that is just crazy, crazy expensive. Why do people take Tucker Carlson seriously? Well, that shows you just how dumb everyone is. People take Tucker Carlson seriously. People take Code Pink seriously. People take the Young Turks seriously. I didn't even take my fucking weed gummy yet. And I feel weirdly relaxed. Really, really weirdly relaxed. I thought I took it, but I didn't. It's still there. I don't think I should do it, because I feel really, really relaxed. To a weird degree. Like I could just melt right now. I feel good. Really, really good. I got a can of cannellini beans with tomato sauce in it, and that was fucking phenomenal. That tasted great. Today was a pretty good day. Oh, life is good.
Doesn't Hassan support Pak? Or is that only in the context on Pakistan-India? If he does support Pak, it's gonna be fucking hilarious watching him weasel out of this one. Pak, you should have learned bombing a hospital turns lefties against you.
Does Hassan support Pakistan? These people have no epistemic standards, and they're all liars and hypocrites. I don't think they're gonna care. They're either gonna deny it ever happened or say, like, come up with some excuse to make it okay. You know, it's what they do. Thanks for the donation, though, eh?
With Trump in the first Trump administration. So this is not a new position for me. I don't want to be vindicated in my fears, but unfortunately, I think the very few people who publicly oppose us are being vindicated because I don't know what the case is that this is good for the United States. No one's even attempting to make that case. So instead they say, well, you hate Jews, to which I always say, well, not only do I not hate Jews, I think anti-Semitism is immoral. It's against my religion. Shut up, you hate Jews. And that is designed to do a bunch of different things, create more loyalty to Israel. There's so much anti-Semitism, you must be loyal to Israel. That's definitely one of the aims of this. Another is to imperil the person you're calling a Nazi because Nazis get shot. Everyone knows that. And the third is to make people who disagree with you or who platform those who might disagree with you or Bibi Netanyahu, censor them, take them off the air, shut them up, silence them. Those are the...
I saw a YouTube ad for Reanimal. Is Reanimal a good game? Fantastic. It was really good. Yeah. Highly recommend it. It's made by the same people who made Little Nightmares. If you consider it, compared to all the Little Nightmares game, that is far better than all the other Little Nightmares games. It's great.
The points of it, but at no juncture have I ever met anybody who has laid out like a kind of reasonable, even slightly fantastical, but just like logical case for how this war will benefit the United States, make us stronger, safer, richer. I've never heard that case. I'm waiting for it. I would love to hear it. I'd love to believe it.
You were in the Oval Office with President Trump. You were photographed with him. You met him, I think, maybe 3 times in the months leading up to this war. And I presume you discussed the potential for war in Iran with him. Did you try and persuade him that this would be a terrible idea?
Of course, that's why I went 3 times in a month, 5 weeks maybe. Yeah, that's why I went. And I've known him a long time, as you have, and always gotten along with him, still get along with him. I still like him. I'll always like him no matter what happens, just because I like him as a guy. And I think he's trying his best. But in this case, I couldn't have an effect. I tried sincerely. I wasn't getting paid for it. It's coming, of course, at some reputational cost. No one wants to deal with being called a Nazi, screamed at, or threatened, or having your kids threatened, which has happened to me a lot. And no one wants to deal with that. But I just felt that this was so serious that it was worth doing whatever I could because, my gosh, people could die. The balance of power globally could change. I've never.
This guy is literally getting paid by Qatar. So, we know what's going on here. It is so silly that we even have to talk about this. Maybe in the long run, the AI thing is going to be a good thing because if everyone gets to a point where if we can create an impartial AI that's like smarter than everybody else and is always right, then we're literally going to be able to just anytime there's an argument, well, the AI says I'm right, and then you win. That'll be pretty cool. That would actually be really useful.
Never supported the idea of an American empire, but we have one, and it's in retreat, but there's a way to manage that that's not damaging or profoundly damaging to the United States, the country that I actually live in, that I was born in. And this is not the way.
Hey, Joelington, what's
Wars
up?
accelerate trends in progress. They bring massive and unexpected change. Every war does this. It's the nature of war. The second people start dying, all kinds of things you never anticipated will happen. And you can't control them. You lose control of the process. I've covered wars. I've certainly watched a lot, read about a lot. I'm not an expert, but I try to apply obvious lessons through history to present-day realities. And that was the first thing I said to the president and anyone else who would listen. Once this starts, the world is going to find out exactly how strong we are, which is not something you necessarily want to reveal. An implied threat is much more effective. In other words, if we're squaring off for a fight and you look huge, you've been lifting a lot, I'm afraid of you, but I don't really know what you're capable of until I hit you or you hit me. And then we find out, and maybe it turns out you have no heart, and you lose. I mean, war is kind of the great reveal. And you don't necessarily want to go there, especially if you've ruled the world without question for 80 years and your capabilities have never really been tested. You haven't fought a big country really since 1953 when the Chinese entered the Korean War. So you don't really know what you're capable of. And you don't.
What the fuck is he talking about? Even even wars that are considered objective losses, the Vietnam War, you can just look at the attritional losses. If you're just talking about pure attrition, if Vietnam was Call of Duty, the United States won team deathmatch. They might have lost the, if it were capture the flag or domination or hardpoint or something, yeah, America lost. But if it were TDM, America won TDM. There's the Iraq War, the first Iraq War, just objective W, no question, just easy W. And then the second Iraq War, again, the Iraqi military was defeated within a matter of days.
I tested HIV positive in 1987. If I had truly given into inclination to make things simpler, I would not be here today. I have done and seen amazing things. Would love to see you post more on OnlyFans with that lean figure you now have, by the way. Steam locomotive emoji, smiley face emoji, steam locomotive emoji.
Well, I hope your HIV's gotten better since then. I'm living with Isaac right now, so I don't have as much privacy as I used to, so you might have to wait a while before I post anything on OnlyFans, but thanks for the donation, James. Yeah, so, again, the US won the, there were other objectives in the Iraq War that weren't completed, but again, when you're looking at just military victories, the US defeated the Iraqi military within a matter of days. The technological superiority the US had over the Iraqis was just crazy. And that absolutely prevented China from invading Taiwan because they saw what America did in the Iraq War and they realized, oh, we have no fucking chance. What else is there? Like, I guess in more recent times, the operation in Venezuela, that was just god tier fucking annihilation. Just waltzed into their fucking country, stole their fucking president, put in a puppet president, have a good day, sir, go fuck yourselves. Absolute W. And that's when Venezuela was gifted Chinese and Russian air defense and missile systems. They couldn't do anything. Like, what the fuck is Tucker talking about? It's just so stupid.
You don't really want to find out. Let's not find out. How's that? But I lost, so, as you can see.
Did you, when you were
If you're ever down, I could make you positive too. Smile, I would love to give a strapping young black man my toxic load and get a phone call from you telling me you're shivering and experiencing symptoms. Do you think you'd ever want that? Embarrassed smiley face emoji, aubergine emoji, nervous sweat emoji, steam locomotive emoji, steam locomotive emoji, steam locomotive emoji.
No. Thanks for the donation, James.
talking to him, Tucker, did you get a sense that he was on the fence about it, that he was potentially persuadable, or did you feel that he was minded to do it, notwithstanding what you were trying to persuade him to the otherwise?
Well, this was over the course of a month, and that included, so I went there three times, but I also talked by phone a bunch, and with him about this. And a lot of other people did too, to advocate for it. A lot of people. I don't think many people within the White House were advocating for it, is my sense. Not that I would really know, I don't work there, but my sense is there weren't a lot of cabinet secretaries saying, oh gosh, we got to have a war with Iran. But there were a number of people from the outside who were all sort of visible, you kind of know who they are, donors and advocates for Israel who were advocating for it. And my sense is his view started to change. Well, obviously it did, because he did it. But at no point did I detect an enthusiasm for it. He didn't seem eager to do it. He didn't want Iran to have nuclear weapons. That sounds fair. I don't have a problem with that. I don't want anyone to have nuclear weapons. I want Israel to have nuclear weapons. I want France to have nuclear weapons. I mean, that's a pretty reasonable position. But the idea that you would go in into some kind of conflict that could very easily become a ground invasion, or who knows what it becomes, a nuclear exchange, who knows? He was not eager to do that, from what I could tell. And again, people tailor their positions to the audience, but I talked to him a lot. And I never one time got the feeling he can't wait to do it. But I also felt, turned out to be correct, that there was an enormous amount of pressure on him, like enormous. I mean, clearly there was an enormous amount of pressure. Where exactly did it come from? It wasn't just from Mark Thiessen of the Washington Post, who was calling a lot to demand more killing. Mark has a lifelong track record of doing that. But no one cares what Mark Thiessen thinks. I felt strongly, and I feel strongly now, that there were forces that were forcing him in this direction. And in fact, the Secretary of State, as you said in your intro, admitted as much out loud and said, Netanyahu said, we're going to go first, and you can either watch your assets get destroyed and your people get killed in the Middle East, or you can join us. The question, though, is
I thought that was really, that was really.
Really? Being post, as we call it in the business, is such an amazing feeling and honor. You would like it. By the way, I'm free to interview any time this week if you'd like. We can talk about it some more then as well. Perhaps I can convince you. Cool face emoji, steamer locomotive emoji, cool face emoji, cool face emoji.
I don't think I want to do that interview anymore. I'm a little nervous about that. Thanks for the donation, though, James.
I think a fascinating moment when Marco Rubio said that, because it prompted Antony Blinken, the former Secretary of State, who'd obviously done his job, to then...
Oh, yeah, the whole Netanyahu dragged us into it thing. If I had to guess, that was probably some PR shit so that, it didn't seem like, again, Donald Trump is saying he's the anti-war president and all this crap. It's probably just some PR shit. So that Trump could say, well, it wasn't really my idea. It was just something that had to happen,
revealed that Netanyahu had tried to pressurize both Biden and Obama into doing the same thing, using the same pretext of, we're going to go and do this anyway, are you with us or not? And of course, in both those eventualities, the answer was no, and Israel didn't attack. I mean, do you think, knowing that now, knowing that from Blinken, do you think Trump may have got played here by Netanyahu?
Well, I already knew that the Israelis had done that in the previous administration. I knew they did it in 1973 with the Nixon administration, where they threatened to use nuclear weapons against the Arabs and forced Henry Kissinger to okay arms sales to Israel. So there's a long pattern of this. And I think anyone who knows anything about the Israelis knows that they're capable of this. They're capable of great violence. They take their threats very seriously, maybe too seriously to the point where they become self-fulfilling. I mean, you could argue about it, but they don't mess around. And of course, this had already happened in this administration. In June, our bombing, the 12-day war in Iran began when the Prime Minister of Israel announced to the administration, I'm doing this week. And my question then, and I raised it, was how about no? How about no? You're a client state. You've got 9 million people. You're the size of New Jersey. You don't make operational decisions. And you certainly don't tell the world's dominant superpower what we're doing next. Like, why would you? That's like getting a lecture from your children. No. And that was my position because that seems consistent with the laws of nature. The weaker partner doesn't get to dictate terms. Like, what world are we living in? And whatever, I'm not in charge. But that was my position. I think that'd be the position of most rational people. But Israel was in charge of that war. They started it. And they were in charge of this war. They started it. So this is a difficult thing for the people who advocated for the war to deal with, because their whole purpose is not to help the United States. It's to, and not even to help Israel. It's to help the Prime Minister of Israel, Benjamin Netanyahu. If you're
No, it helps the United States. Again, it weakens China. You idiot. How is China going to invade Taiwan if they have energy deficits? You fucking idiot.
Loyal to Israel, if you love the state of Israel, what do you think about what's happening in Tel Aviv and Haifa right now? They just had, apparently, an Iranian rocket land right next to the Church of the Nativity.
Documents show Epstein's youngest victim was 11, but you said there's no sex trafficking operation. Yeah. Documents also state that Trump told some girl she's naughty and he has to teach her a lesson and then raped her all night. Like, it says that. It's an accusation. There's no proof. Like, why do you think he was never indicted for any of this shit? So, look at the indictments. Youngest girl he was ever indicted with doing anything with was like 17 years and something months. There's plenty of shit in the Epstein files that are just accusations. That's all they are. So he was never indicted with any of this. It's like look at the amount of women who make up stupid, retarded horseshit against any dude. That's basically what the Epstein files are. There's a lot of stuff that are accusations. They're FBI reports that like a victim alleges something. That's all they are. Like Amber Heard said Johnny Depp did a bunch of shit to her. Like, did you believe any of that? Like, yeah. So that's what it is. The Epstein files aren't like any kind of absolute, like, undeniable proof of anything, dude. They're just a bunch of data collected, during this investigation, and that's all it is. It doesn't mean anything in it is necessarily true.
Luckily, it didn't do much damage. But this isn't helping Israel. There's no real end game for Israel here that's going to result in its long-term stability and peace. Of course not.
Congratulations, you're banned. See you later, dipshit. Go do your gay retarded shit somewhere else.
This is a disaster for Israel, actually. Not that I really care because I'm not Israeli, but I don't want to see any country harmed. And these people are in a very tough spot because now we've left the rhetoric stage and we're in the kinetic action stage where the rest of us can just assess outcomes without mediation. Like, who controls the Straits of Hormuz in 3 years? Is there an American military base in Bahrain? What happened to the Fifth Fleet? It used to be there. Where is it now? Who's controlling the energy flows out of the Middle East? These are measurable phenomenon. They're not susceptible to Ben Shapiro being like, wagging his eyebrows at you and telling you you're an anti-Semite. It doesn't matter what he says. And so it puts them in a very tough spot. How do they respond? Well, we know from the Iraq War, not a single person is ever going to admit he was wrong, ever.
Dodo donated $2. Let me see. Wall Street Journal reports that Russia is providing Iran with satellite imagery and advanced drone technology and drone know-how from the front lines of Ukraine. Help try and target U.S. forces in the Middle East. Components, modified shoot drones. Drawing on the Ukraine battlefield. Yeah, I've already heard this. So, yeah. You would expect that. They're very likely sharing satellite data because that doesn't really cost anything, because like they're eventually going to have some satellites that cross over that region, then they can just give Iran some info. As far as actually giving them any kind of drone components, I find that hard to believe because that like they're already fighting a war with Ukraine. The idea that they'd give up any resources to help Iran, that sounds incredibly unlikely. I think that's nonsense, but yeah, as far as sharing some intelligence which would be free, that's not like, yeah, that's believable, but as far as giving them drone components, I don't think so. And other stuff too, like, you know, just some drone know-how kind of stuff.
Assessment of the intelligence community is that Iran's nuclear enrichment program was obliterated by last summer's airstrikes.
Yes.
In the opening statement you submitted to the committee last night also stated, quote, there has been no effort since then to try to rebuild their enrichment capability, end quote, correct?
That's right.
And that's the assessment of the intelligence community.
Maybe the women were in a desperate position and were coerced into doing sexual favors. I'm pretty sure that's the situation with literally every job. Pretty sure with literally every form of employment, you're in a desperate situation. You need to pay bills. So you need to do a job. So does every employer coerce you to do things that you don't want to do? Do you want to get up at 6 o'clock in the fucking morning so that you can be on the train by 7 a.m. so that you can go to work and be there by 8:30? Do you want to do that, or are you coerced into doing it because you have to pay rent and they're offering you money so that you can travel to work for an hour and a half and get up early in the morning and then do a shitty job you don't like? What does any of this fucking horseshit mean? So guess what? If you want money, somebody's offering you money to do something, that is a volitional act that you made the choice to do. So they could get a job at fucking Wendy's. They could fucking they could file for unemployment. They could take out a fucking what is it? They could go on welfare. They could suck dick for cash. They could do a whole bunch of things for money. They chose to suck dick for cash. Just fucking stupid. This whole bullshit about like somebody was coerced into sex work. Look, I don't know how people figure that like there's something unique about sex work where you can be like coerced and forced into doing it. I can't think of anything more honest than I want you to do something, here's money for it. That nothing about that is coercion. If you can show me evidence that like they were lied to in some way, that, oh yeah, you just have to like give some guy a massage and then like they're forced to do something against their will, like, haha, I tricked you, suck my dick now, or I'm gonna beat you to death. That's a different story. But again, if the whole deal is you come here, suck dick for cash, we pay you money for sucking dick, I don't know how that's coercion. That seems pretty fucking straightforward to me. That's how most businesses operate. You get up early in the morning at 6:30 so that you can be at work by, 9 a.m. and then you do this work and then we pay you. That's every fucking job. Where are we? Oh yeah, we're watching this.
Community.
Yes.
The White House stated on March 1st of this year that this war was launched and was, quote, a military campaign to eliminate the imminent nuclear threat posed by the Iranian regime.
They wanted to leave but could not. What does that mean? So they're on an island. So you can either get there by boat or by helicopter. I'm assuming there's like there's boats that go on and off the island at certain points, or there's a helicopter that goes on off the island at certain points. It's like yeah, do you mean like if there's like, say, a time frame where, okay, a boat leaves the island or a helicopter leaves the island once every week, and they had to wait a few days in order to get the next boat or the next helicopter, yeah, they wouldn't be able to leave right when they wanted at any point in time. They can't get up at 3 in the morning and call an Uber. That doesn't mean they were forced to stay there. It just means because it's an island, it's an isolated area, and travel on and off the island occurs on a schedule, that doesn't mean they're forced to be there. Like, have you ever taken public transit to remote areas? A bus may leave a station every 3 hours. So if you have to transfer from one station to another and you have to wait for a bus, are you being forced to stay at that transfer station against your will? Or do you just have to wait for the fucking bus? What does any of that mean? So again, like, show me evidence that someone was brought there, was told they could leave whenever they wanted, because that, like, there's like some shuttle that would take them whenever the fuck they wanted, but then they were lied to. Like, where's the evidence?
End quote. That's a statement from the White House. Quote, the imminent nuclear threat posed by the Iranian regime. Was it the assessment of the intelligence community that there was an imminent nuclear threat posed by the Iranian regime?
The intelligence community assessed that Iran maintained the intention to rebuild and to continue to grow their nuclear enrichment capability.
Was it the assessment of the intelligence community that there was a, quote, imminent nuclear threat posed by the Iranian regime, yes or no?
Senator, the only person who can determine what is and is not an imminent threat is the president.
False. This is the worldwide threats hearing where you present to Congress national intelligence, timely, objective, and independent of political considerations. You've stated today that the intelligence community's assessment is that Iran's nuclear enrichment program was obliterated and that, quote, there had been no efforts since then to try to rebuild their enrichment capability. Was it the intelligence community's assessment that nevertheless, despite this obliteration, there was a, quote, imminent nuclear threat posed by the Iranian regime? Yes or no?
It is not the intelligence community's responsibility to determine what is and is not an imminent threat.
Okay.
That is up to the president based on a volume of information that he receives.
It is precisely your responsibility to determine what constitutes a threat to the United States. This is the worldwide threats hearing where, as you noted in your opening testimony, quote, you represent the IC's assessment of threats. You are here to represent the IC's assessment of threats. That's a quote from your own opening statement. And so my question is, as you're here to present the IC's assessment of threats, was it the assessment of the intelligence community that, as the White House claimed on March 1st, there was a, quote, imminent nuclear threat posed by the Iranian regime? Yes or no?
Once again, Senator, the intelligence community has provided the inputs that make up this annual threat assessment.
You won't answer the question.
It is the nature of the imminent threat that the president has to make that determination based on a collection and volume of information and intelligence that he is provided with.
You're here to be timely, objective, and independent.
Boring. Trump just throw Israel under the bus. Israel, out of anger for what has taken place in the Middle East, has violently lashed out at a major facility known as Paras gas field in Iran. A relatively small section, blah, 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 Qatar involved. Why not? Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if this is PR, if this is like some planned thing. He was told to say this. If Israel did something that they weren't supposed to, I don't know. Who cares? Cheeks are getting clapped. That's all that matters. Thanks for the donation, Dodo. Sleepy donate $2. Are these guys retards? Let me take a look.
Black people No, I don't hate anybody. I think that if somebody approaches me with respect, I'll reciprocate because that's just how I was raised. But the reason why I talk about race so much is because I think that it's relevant. I believe that I, as a white person, am a legitimate claimant to this land. I believe that I have a birthright, and I think that I have a stake in the outcome.
Yeah, I guess. I don't care about anything they have to say, but sure. Thanks for the donation, Sleepy.
Are you sure you don't want to interview me anymore? I can leave the pausing thing out of the discussion, but I thought you might be into that. Cool face emoji, smiley face emoji, embarrassed smiley face emoji, steamer locomotive emoji, smiley face emoji.
Yeah, I think it's just better if we don't do the interview. I think you're getting too excited. Thanks for the donation, James.
Ever. One of the most liberating things I've ever done in my life was admit that I was wrong about the Iraq War. And I was ashamed of it. I remain ashamed of it. But once you say I was wrong and I'm sorry, this tremendous weight lifts off your shoulders. You don't have to lie anymore. And that is what liberation actually is. None of these people will do that. None. They feel no compunction and they won't. So instead what they're doing is they're just going bonkers on the attack because, and this is a precept that Israel lives by, the best defense is a strong offense. So rather than like debating you on the terms or admitting that they were wrong in their forecast and there was no popular uprising in Iran and we've lost control of the world's energy, they're going to say, Piers Morgan, you're a Nazi. Megyn Kelly, you're a Nazi. And you're just like, what? That is a kind of insulation that they're constructing around themselves to prevent, well, any kind of soul searching about how did I get it so wrong? And all these people died because I was wrong. They don't want to deal with that. But it also allows them to just like keep going on to the next war of conquest or the next satanic disaster that they'll back, which they will.
Have you spoken to President Trump since the war began?
I just through proxies. Like he called me names or said I was too dumb to understand MAGA or something. I wasn't, from my perspective, a real attack. I can't. I admit my weaknesses up front. Okay, I like pizza, which is wrong. I like Donald Trump, which is increasingly hard to defend, but I do.
He hates Donald Trump. All that shit got leaked in the Dominion lawsuit.
And I don't anticipate any kind of personal tiff with Trump. I think he was in an impossible spot. I think it's very obvious now that the U.S. president, under our current system, which I pray changes soon, doesn't have the latitude that people thought he had. Like presidents can't just make whatever decision they want in the interest of their country. There are other forces hemming them in. We don't have sovereignty in a real way. Clearly we don't. If we're following a country of 9 million people into a war that could displace us as the dominant superpower, we don't have sovereignty. I mean, by definition. And I think every president has felt that since John F. Kennedy was murdered. And clearly they all have. And they've acted within it, with wisdom or not, but they're still acting within boundaries that they didn't set, that no American did. And it's just time to change the system, not because you hate Israel or you're anti-Semitic. I mean, I'm not anti-Semitic. I don't hate Israel at all. I'm never going to. But that's not the way a sovereign country behaves or should have to behave. And Americans have earned the right to live under a government.
When I got paused back in 1987, you were probably still in middle school. Cool face emoji. What makes you think you wouldn't enjoy it? It's thrilling and you can have the ability to pass it on. It's like a superpower. Cool face emoji. Cool face emoji.
I wasn't born yet in 1987. I was born in 91. Thanks for the donation, though, James.
Government that makes decisions on their behalf for their benefit. I mean, it's that simple.
What Trump said about you was quite revealing, actually, because he said, Tucker's lost his way. He's not MAGA. MAGA is saving our country. MAGA is making our country great again. MAGA is America first, and Tucker is none of these things. And Tucker's really not smart enough to understand that. Now, having been on the receiving end of Trump's savage rhetoric from time to time, that is pretty low base for him. But it was an interesting point about what constitutes MAGA, because, of course, there are many people with pretty short to mid-term memories who can remember Trump campaigning so vociferously to his MAGA base before the last election on saying, look, we're going to be America first. We're not going to go marching into Middle Eastern countries anymore. We're not going to wage foreign wars. We're not going to interfere in other countries. And we're going to fix the economy in the United States. We're going to get the cost of living prices down. We're going to end inflation.
Yeah, I'm thinking this isn't the real James.
What are your thoughts on college? I see a lot of people these days saying it's a scam. At the same time, if you look at the stats, people with bachelor's degrees earn an average of $1.2 million more in their lifetime than people without bachelors.
So, yeah, they might earn more, but they also have more debt. So, depends on what you consider to be real wealth. On top of that, it's a fucking communist breeding ground. Colleges are just... They're just communist training camps to make kids, like, fucking retarded. and destroy the United States. The only time it's ever worth going to college is if you're going into STEM. Other than that, the actual degree itself is worthless. And yeah, historically, people who go to college earn more. That's not even necessarily because they're better at their jobs. It's just because, oh, you went to college. But that's changing. We're right at a point now where college graduates are actually earning, starting to earn less and having a harder time getting employed compared to non-college graduates. It depends on what degree you get, obviously, but there's a lot of bullshit degrees like communications degrees, crap like that, where like we're right at the point where the statistics are showing you're going to have a harder time actually getting a job, and you're either not going to make any more money or less money compared to just people with high school degrees. Thanks for the donation, though, JP.
Holy shit, that took you long to figure out. LOL nigga, that was me from the beginning, not James. I manipulate the shit out of you all the time and you have no fucking idea.
Well, I sort of suspected that the whole time. Kind of weird for James to act like that, and he's kind of into muscular women too, so thanks for that donation. Thanks for the donation, 21st.
And it seems to me that it might be that President Trump has either forgotten what he said or wants to try and reframe what MAGA really means. Because if you're a MAGA voter, you must be slightly mystified. You may not want to admit it publicly because you think it betrays Trump, but you must be mystified that within a year of winning back the White House, the guy that campaigned on not going into the Middle East again, not waging foreign wars, focusing on America first and the US economy, has now launched the biggest war in the Middle East in my lifetime that America has waged. And that has inevitably sparked the biggest economic meltdown we've seen as a consequence.
That was a dumb donation by JP and dumb response by Niggard. The correct response is that comparing income of bachelor holders to non-college graduates is not apples to apples. The smart alternative is trade school. Compare income of bachelor versus trade.
I don't think that was Jordan Peterson, dude, but thanks for the donation, 21st. It just depends, okay? Like, yeah, if you're going to be a dentist,
Consequent civil war, not least because, as you said, about the Strait of Hormuz and the damage that is inflicting, and the simultaneous attacks on the Gulf states and all the fallout from that. So it seems to me that he may want to come after you for not really understanding MAGA, but I'm not sure that many in the MAGA movement, if they're really honest, can be comfortable with what is happening here.
I mean, look, I've never claimed to be a genius because I'm not a genius. And so it's entirely possible there are motives I don't understand. I certainly tried to.
Oh, geez, he's not a fucking genius. Who'd have figured?
Understand in many conversations with him, but maybe I didn't. I'll keep that possibility open. And as for what MAGA is, it's a slippery definition. I mean, I think George Orwell wrote a bunch of books about this, including Animal Farm. Definitions change. I remember someone pointing to a picture of 100% black people once and telling me that's diversity. Or thinking, looks like uniformity, actually. Like, what do these words mean? I don't know. I do know what America First means because it's a much more precise description. And it means you put America first in every decision that you make as an American leader. And this, by that definition, falls far short. In fact, it is by definition not America First.
Does not fall short. It's all about just controlling China.
Because the administration has already said we follow the lead of a foreign country in doing this. We put their interest first. And I think most people, no matter how they feel about Israel, whether they love it or hate it, or it doesn't matter. It's nothing to do with this specific country. It has to do with any country that might be leading us around, particularly to our destruction, and putting its interest before ours. Our leaders can never agree to that, period, because it is the opposite of America first. So, whatever Trump said about me, I didn't take it personally. I suspect he doesn't really mean it because I've always gotten along with him for 30 years. I expect I always will. But on this one specific question, America first, we can say this was not America first. This was at least America second. I do think it's obvious that Israel understood, because they're not stupid, that the effect of this war would be to get the United States out of the Middle East. And unfortunately, I think that will be the effect. And they want that because why would you want a dominant power in your region telling you what to do and hemming you in, as the U.S. has to Israel? No, you can't do this. No, you can't do that. We may not mean it, but we still hassle them over or used to hassle them over, say, the West Bank settlements. They want the U.S. out. And they're moving to India. Okay, that's their calculation. But how is that good for me as an American? It's not. So America first. Yeah, this was not America first. whatever it was.
Well, what is very interesting is that I can't remember a war that once it started where American forces have been committed by an American president where there hasn't been majority support for that war in the United States in the polling. This is the first time where there isn't. There's a majority of a lack of support for it. Americans they're not buying this war. They don't want it. They don't really understand it. And they're very concerned about the consequences.
The only people who
Many of Epstein's victims were from poor parts of Eastern Europe, and their passports were confiscated once recruited. The women thought they would be doing massages, but turned out to be sex. Where's the indictments? So there's a reason why it's only in the Epstein files, and there are no indictments, dude.
Who support this war are those born between 1946 and 1964 who watch a lot of Fox News. That's it. I'm not attacking them. By the way, they're Americans. They're my equals as Americans. I love a lot of them. But their perspective on the U.S. and the world is very different from everyone else's. Very, very different. And so they're not the ones who got Donald Trump elected, actually. The people who got Donald Trump elected are the people who hadn't voted for Republicans before or even voted at all before. And they're like Joe Rogan listeners, or people who use nicotine pouches. They're Hispanic voters. They're young black men. They're non-traditional Republican voters who voted for Trump because he promised not to keep doing the same thing. And one of the things he promised not to do again was to hand operational authority over to Benjamin Netanyahu, as other presidents have. We don't want any more of that. Why would we? And we're not going to make Mark Levin or Ben Shapiro, who have almost no organic support in the media world. No one really watches them. We're not going to hand control of our foreign policy over to people like that who don't know anything and who don't have America's interests at heart or even in mind. So breaking faith with those people, those voters, the ones who actually got Trump elected and whose coalition promised a new day in American politics, that's a big deal. It's a betrayal on the level that I don't think people who aren't in those groups can understand. This is heartbreaking. And by the way, a lot of people really like Trump. They like his.
Why is it that secular political parties in the Middle East always tend towards communism or violent fascism like Saddam, Assad, Gaddafi and their political parties?
Ugh. Jeez. I think I have to go to a dermatologist. There isn't any link between secular political parties in the Middle East and tend towards communism. You're just seeing certain countries that are poorer make friends with China and Russia. That's it. All the rich Saudi nations, like Saudi Arabia, Qatar, Dubai, UAE, they're rich. They don't have to make any deals with commies. It's just the poorer countries that end up doing that. There's not really any association with secular dictatorships. There's a lot of poor Muslim areas in Africa that get support from commies. There's a lot of tribal warfare that also occurs in Africa that is supported by communists. So it's just related to just poverty, basically. Thanks for the donation, though, 21st.
Do you advise? I've matured over the last 5 years and am a much better person than who I was then. But I have difficulty reconciling my past with who I am now. I feel cringe of who I used to be and the decisions I used to make, since I'd never do them today.
Just jerk off and watch some hentai and don't think about it. Why bother worrying about any of that? The only thing you have power over is your own future, and the past is the past. And regardless of anything, we're all gonna die anyway, so it's like none of this will ever happen. So just do as you will. Thanks for the donation, though, JP. It's not a rash. There's like skin that won't heal. It's from the barbell on my back from doing squats. And it, like, there's just a bunch of dead skin that accumulates and then it falls off and then it gets like bloody and stuff. It itches.
Stylish, he's hilarious, he's brave. You know, he's just like they like him. And to see this is, oh, it's so wounding. It hurts. I've got a bunch who work for me. I'm related to some, they're all Trump voters. And I talked to them in the last 24 hours. Boy, they're upset. They're not just mad. Like, I hate Israel. That's not the impulse. They're definitely starting to hate Israel. Why wouldn't they? Our relationship with Israel is hurting us gravely. It's getting Americans killed. So they're mad, but it's more than mad. I can't believe he did this to us. I feel just so depressed about it.
How politically damaging could it be? We've got the midterms coming up in November. There were already a lot of reports that it was likely the Republicans would lose control of the House. Now I'm reading more reports that it may be that they even lose the Senate, which would render Trump, notwithstanding all his kind of mystical powers to avoid the normal norms of politics in America, if you don't have control of the House and the Senate, you are a lame duck president, period, end. There's pretty much nothing more you can do.
That's true now. I mean, I think the conversation has moved on from the president. It's not an attack on him. He still, of course, is commander-in-chief. He threatened some kind of mass destruction of Iran yesterday. It sounded like a nuclear strike to me. So, like, he has the capacity, to make decisions. He's the president, elected president. However, as a political matter, that era is over for the reasons I just described. I didn't want that to be true, but the coalition is permanently fractured. He was not elected because of Ben Shapiro. Ben Shapiro did not get Donald Trump elected. A lot of the people Trump is now attacking got Donald Trump elected, like Marjorie Taylor Greene, et cetera. So that coalition is done. The Republican Party, as currently constituted, will not continue because it doesn't represent its voters. It doesn't even try to represent its voters. In fact, it shows open hostility to its voters. So nothing like that can continue for very long because it doesn't make any sense. It's a bicycle with square wheels. It's ludicrous. So the question is, what comes next? And I do think it's possible to recreate some version of the 2020 Trump coalition or the 2024 Trump coalition on the basis of his core promise, which is just put the country first. And like, you're going to make mistakes and we're not exactly sure how to fix certain things, but let's all try. And by the way, let's be united as we do it. The ugliest thing to come out of the Mark Levin-controlled Republican Party, which I found repulsive, and I just want to say I'll do everything I can to stop that party from becoming, any more powerful than it is try to stoke religious conflict in the United States, attacking people for being like a different religion. We hate the Muslims, really. How is that different from we hate the Jews? Well, it's not in any sense different at all. And I would.
No, there's a big difference there. The Muslims are kind of a problem. The Jews aren't.
Say, just thinking long-term about the United States, the greatest threat is not even the loss of the US dollar as the reserve currency globally. The greatest threat is tribalism, where the country fractures into warring tribes. And people like Levin are doing their best to create that. And it's totally immoral and dangerous. It will result in violence. Their endless harping on this anti-Semitism question is part of that. Anti-Semitism is immoral. It's every bit as immoral as anti-white bias, which is encoded in the federal government, by the way, and every elite institution in the United States discriminates against whites. That is every bit as immoral as anti-Semitism.
I don't know what the fuck he's talking about there.
That's every bit as moral as hating anybody else on the basis of their bloodline because it's a universal principle. It applies to every human being. It's a human right to be treated as an individual and not be held responsible for the sins of your parents. That is a human right in the West. And people like Levin and Shapiro don't recognize that because they are not Western in their orientation. They think that rights only apply to the groups they favor. And that idea, that evil idea, which was the basis of Nazism, by the way, that is the thing that will destroy the United States. And the next leadership of this country, whoever it is, has to articulate we're all American citizens. We must be treated equally under the law. Bias against one group is no better or worse than bias against another group, period. Anti-Semitism. Where were you when the ADL was openly promoting anti-white hate? So now the ADL is an authority on bias crimes? They've abetted bias crimes. They are currently abetting bias crimes. The ADL and every single one of these groups has an absolute moral obligation to treat anti-white hate, which is the only kind encoded in US law right now, as every...
Give an example of that.
But the threat of anti-Semitic hate. How are they different? They're not. And no one will say that until someone does say that, you will not reunite this country. And if this continues, the country will fracture.
As we're talking, with glorious coincidence, Ben Shapiro has been releasing various clips on his social media platforms. One of them goes after me and Megyn Kelly. Me because he blew his gasket about Dave Smith appearing on my show, launched into my show, said it was just Jerry Springer. I like Jerry Springer. I knew him very well. I worked with him on America's Got Talent.
Say you're Pontius Pilate. How do you handle Jesus without turning him into a martyr? Kick him in the nuts. Just kick him in the nuts real good. Then once he cries from getting kicked in the nuts. So this is your God, cries like a little baby from getting kicked in the nuts. Yeah, so get the fuck out of here. That's how I deal with that.
talent. He's actually a very smart guy. Used to be a news anchor, mayor of Cincinnati. Really interesting guy, much smarter than Ben Shapiro. So I took that as a compliment. But and I responded. He didn't like the response. He's come back. He's called me Jerry Springer again. He's called me a click whore. He says I'm a pussy bitch. And he goes on and on and on. I don't actually want to play the clip about me because he's trying to basically suggest that if you platform anybody that he hasn't approved as a person that can speak about Israel, in other words, someone who's a propagandist for Israel, who will not criticize Israel, then you yourself are promoting anti-Semitism, therefore you're an anti-Semite, therefore you're basically borderline Nazi. But I do want to play what he said about you, because he's been railing the same stuff against you, which I don't think anyone who has watched this interview so far will have concluded, oh yeah, Tucker sounds like a raging anti-Semite, he sounds like a Nazi. You couldn't sound less like either of those things, and yet he's just posted this. Let's take a look.
I started originally criticizing Tucker Carlson for his economic programs back in 2018. And then in the more modern post-Fox iteration of Tucker, I started criticizing Tucker over his going to Russia to sniff the bread and kiss Vladimir Putin's ass. My generalized critique of Tucker in the last few months has been, one, he hosted and glossed a Nazi, Nick Fuentes, which doesn't have to do with Israel. It has to do with glazing a Nazi, Nick Fuentes. And then I did a speech at Heritage in which I went through the fact that Tucker Carlson is in no way, shape, or form a traditional conservative. That he's a conspiratorial near-anarchist at this point, seeking to tear down the fundamental ideas and institutions of the United States. Go watch the Heritage speech. I believe Israel is mentioned once in a 35-minute speech that is all about Tucker's general view of the world and how it does not represent traditional conservatism in any way. I think that Tucker Carlson has fostered anti-Semitism by having on some of the worst anti-Semites in America over and over and over, and then essentially laundering their views.
So it's the same attack line, essentially, about the anti-Semitism, which is if you or I or Megyn Kelly, whoever it may be, dares to platform anybody who is critical of Israel, let's be clear. I mean, in my case, I've always made it crystal clear, as you have in this interview, I have absolutely no problem with Israel, the state of Israel, with Israelis, with Jewish people, many Jewish friends. It's nothing to do with that. I reserve the right as a
Fucking Pierce Morgan is such an idiot. Less is more than Tiller's bro. I injured my L5 S1 lumbar disc. On top of that, I was trying to recovering from hyperextension in both knees. Bad luck, I guess. Can I get a good old-fashioned God of Gains prayer for a speedy recovery? No, we don't do that here. Prayer is for the weak. Prayer maddens Crom, and Crom will send you dooms, not aid. Strength is within you to get stronger and recover, so, you know, just, you know, focus on getting better, dude. Do what you need to do to get stronger. That's all that will help. Thanks for the donation, less is more. Sleepy donating $2, let me see.
Patriot or a traitor?
Definitely a patriot.
Why do you say that?
I mean, you got to look at what he's done for our country. I mean, the man got shot. And if you look at everything...
Don't send me this brain rot horse shit, dude. I don't care. Don't care. Thanks for the donation, Sleepy.
as a journalist to criticize any government, and I particularly reserve the right to criticize the Israeli government given what it's been doing in the last few years, as any decent journalist should, not least because in Gaza, for example, the Israeli government continues to ban international journalists from operating there or even going on into Gaza to...
Yeah, we've gone over this whole fucking thing. Like... Oh, I'm so tired.
To verify what they've been up to. That alone should be a warning sign to everybody that the Israeli government has probably been doing things in Gaza it doesn't want people to know. So, but I took the same view. You know, I oppose the Iraq war. We've talked about this before. But I led the media campaign in the UK against the Iraq war, even though my own brother ended up fighting in it. But I opposed it, and I think was vindicated by what happened afterwards, sadly. But I opposed it and took on Tony Blair, who was the then British Prime Minister, even though my newspaper was the Labour sympathetic newspaper, the Daily Mirror, to the Labour government. But I did it because I thought it was the right thing to do. It didn't mean that I hated British people or my country. In fact, quite the opposite. It meant that I wanted to help the British people and help my country from stumbling into a disaster. And I sense from you that your position about Iran is not driven by a hatred of Jews or Israelis or Israel. It is driven by a sense that you feel this is bad for America and Americans and probably bad for Israelis and Jewish people as well.
Yeah, I mean, I care about the United States. Again, I was born here. My family's been here hundreds of years. I care about it. I don't expect I'll be able to save it, but I want to do whatever I can to make it better and to avoid obvious disasters like this one. I don't want to attack Ben Shapiro. Other than to say, like, that guy went to Harvard, and so did Bill Ackman. Like, at some point, you need to reassess. No, I'm serious, though. These are two of the most famous, richest people in our world. They both went to Harvard. I know them both. Not geniuses. Like, not even close to geniuses. And so, like, our system itself is not producing wise people or even very knowledgeable people. Like, Ben Shapiro had no idea there was a strait at the end of the Persian Gulf and why it was important. You need a system that produces superior people. The British Empire did a pretty good job of this. The United States before the Second World War did a pretty good job of this. We need to reassess our system. That's the first thing I would say. Second, you're right. This is absurd. I think I've actually even argued with you about Israel. I was taking a tougher position than you. You've been a defender of Israel. Yeah. So this is so crazy. He wants to talk about this in order to get, this is projection. You're all about clicks. No, actually, Ben Shapiro was all about the money and about the clicks. But here's the part that I think that we should be concerned about. It is now a crime in a lot of the West to criticize Israel. People were arrested yesterday in Australia for criticizing Israel outside, publicly, not attacking Jews, not attacking physically anybody, saying I'm against the state of Israel. They're arrested for it. They're in jail tonight. That's also true in the UK, as you know. It's true in Canada.
No, it's not the fuck. What's going on?
And it's true throughout Europe. And Ben Shapiro and people in the administration would like to make that the law here. This is the last holdout of free speech on planet Earth, the United States. It's encoded in our Constitution.
This is just so nauseating. Like, Piers Morgan is just letting this guy lie.
Also, I would say in the American DNA, we have a right to say whatever we believe is true, period. And that very much includes criticism of a foreign country. You'll never hear me saying from the river to the sea, because I'm not exactly sure what that means. However, if I want to say from the river to the sea, I certainly will. And I'll do that until I die, because that's my birthright. That's a right given to me by God, not the US government. And Ben Shapiro, and a lot of these people are saying it out loud, we need to penalize anti-Semites with the law. What does that even mean? You can never, in the United States, prosecute or even persecute someone for his beliefs. For your beliefs. You have the right of conscience in this country. The UK used to have it. Australia used to have it. New Zealand used to have it. Now they're going to jail for saying things that Ben Shapiro doesn't like. So we should be wary of this, because it's all preparatory to legislative and regulatory changes that will ban free speech in the United States. They're saying it out loud. That's happening.
I also think that the really insidious part of it, and there were many insidious parts of it, one is to silence people and to threaten them and to get them cancelled and so on, which is very hypocritical coming from someone like Ben Shapiro, who pretends to be the great king of free speech. But also, there are yeah, exactly. I ended my own monologue response to him by saying those exact words, which probably triggered his little pussy bitch outburst today, as he's called me. But I think the other thing that I find insidious, Tucker, is that there are genuine anti-Semitic people. There are people that hate Jews because they're Jewish. There are people that wish harm to Jews. There are people who still have Nazi sympathies, who think the Holocaust was a good thing. These people exist. And if you start branding everybody that's critical of this current very hardline Israeli government, with people like Smotrich and Ben-Gvir, who have extremely hardline views, if you criticize a government and you get branded anti-Semitic for criticizing the government for policies that many people think are wrong, then what you're doing, you're allowing the genuine anti-Semites, the genuine Nazi sympathizers, to just ride under the radar. Because, if you go on social media now, everyone's an anti-Semite, according to Ben Shapiro and these guys. Once everyone becomes something, even though the vast majority are not that thing, then the ones who really are that thing get to operate much more freely, I think.
That may be true. That's not my first concern. My first concern is the innocent falsely accused. Always. It is better to let people get away with crimes than it is to punish a single innocent man. That's always been a bedrock assumption of American justice and of justice itself. You can't punish the innocent. Of course, Israel specializes in punishing the innocent, killing the families of people they don't like. So it's not a concept that people like Ben Shapiro understand or care about, but it's the basis of Western civilization. So you do not accuse or penalize innocent people, much less kill them. A. B.
So, this is just anti-Semitic nonsense. Every country accepts some amount of collateral damage in every war. You're an idiot.
B, this is a universal principle. It is not specific to one ethnic group or one bloodline. The principle is you cannot attack or penalize people, punish them for the sins, real or perceived, of their ancestors. Period. And in the United States right now, and this has been true for 60 years, the only group that is routinely denied jobs, promotions, federal grants, college admission to Harvard is Christian whites. It's embedded in the law in the United States. We call it affirmative action, DEI, diversity imperatives, whatever. That's the law in the
Yeah, didn't they literally get rid of that with the Trump administration?
United States. And so if we're going to tackle bias, and I think we should, through moral suasion, we need to attack it equally, evenly, as a universal principle, because if these protections apply only to your group, they're not valid. That's just tribalism. I don't care, actually. And then we're in a system where we only care about our own groups. No law or principle has meaning or validity unless it's universal, unless it applies to all human beings, all American citizens. And so I would just remind Ben Shapiro of that. You need to push back, if you're pushing against anti-Semitism, you need to push back against the only kind of hate and bias embedded in U.S. law. It's the U.S. law. And this administration has done not so much to change that. I don't understand why. I hope they will. But as long as we're doing this, let's just apply it to every human being, because human rights are a real thing. Those rights were endowed by God. I know Ben Shapiro went to Harvard, but he should meditate on that for a minute.
Well, also, he should meditate on the fact that when I to a lot of outrage from people on the pro-Palestinian side when I was very vociferous in my belief when the war on Hamas started that Israel didn't just have a right to defend itself, it had a fundamental duty to defend itself after what was an appalling terrorist attack with 1,200 people killed and nearly 7,000 wounded and 250 kidnapped, including a baby and Holocaust survivors and so on. Of course they had to defend themselves. By taking such a strong position as I did for a long time, and you and I did argue about this as it went on,
yes.
I took a lot of heat coming from the other side about that. And I made a point to Shapiro this week. I've taken heat from both sides, and I'm fine with that. I actually think journalists should take heat from both sides of almost any issue, because it probably means you're doing the right thing. You're asking the right questions at the right time. But he was very keen to come on my show and enjoy the clicks that came from the interviews that we did when he perceived me to be somebody on his side. But what he didn't understand was I never saw it as taking a side. I just saw it as they had a right to defend themselves, as America did after 9/11, as Britain did, when we had the Battle of Britain and the Blitz. You have a right to defend your country, whoever you are, if you're under attack. But he mistook that for me taking a tribal position with him, that I was on his side. And the moment I began to deviate from that, I began to get more critical of Israel. Certainly from the start of last year onwards, I became much more critical. He couldn't handle it. And then he didn't just refuse to come on the show. He refused to reply to my text. We'd always had a very cordial relationship. And then he started attacking me in public. And I was watching all this going, really? You're the free speech guy? You're the guy that tells the world how important free speech is? You're the one that says repeatedly, facts don't care about your feelings? And yet here you're letting your feelings override any changing facts on the ground in Gaza, for example. And I felt that was just so rankly hypocritical.
And also embarrassing. I mean, he's ruled by his emotions. So, which is, lots of us are. I am sometimes, for sure. Try not to be. But here's a guy whose whole brand, carefully constructed brand with his carefully constructed deal with Facebook, is based on his cool analysis, right? Facts don't care about your feelings. I'm a facts guy. And here he is allowing his one overriding love in life, which is for the Benjamin Netanyahu government, to determine who he's friends with. And by the way, you see a lot of this. I mean, I called Mark Levin right after Charlie Kirk was killed to say, geez, this is horrible. And let's stop fighting because we probably have a lot in common. And, let's just not fight. When you see someone killed who you love, it's like you want to fight less. So that's why I called him. And he was nice, by the way. He was. Yeah, I think it's a good idea. And then.
Yeah. Okay. We don't need to watch the rest of that.
Investigators that died suddenly, namely Edward Saul and Lauren Whiskey, are liars who are grifting for clicks on the internet. They've already came up with gems such as declassified CIA documents suggest we had a cure for cancer 60 years ago, and CIA admits vaccines used for mind control. So, kind of picking up what you're putting down there, guys. But look, if you want to talk about vaccines, knock yourself out, because I don't know a lot about vaccines. But I do know a little bit about what's going on in Iran, because people like me find the bad men and we make them go away. I am in Florida right now, and I have a little time before I have to go to work. So let's go over this unhinged post step by step and explain what they got wrong and why. At the end of the day, these are just grifters putting out content for clickbait so they can make money. Accusation number one. America is 1 week away from exhausting our supply of interceptor missiles, without which we'd have no effective means of stopping incoming missiles and drones to Israel, Jordan, Qatar, UAE, Saudi Arabia. So this is a lie for a number of reasons, and it kind of shows how easily people who don't know anything about the military can be fooled. First off, many of these countries mentioned, Israel, Jordan, Qatar, UAE, Saudi Arabia, they have their own air defense systems. They know what they're doing. We're not necessarily protecting them, although there may be some overlap, especially at U.S. bases in Kuwait and Saudi Arabia and joint bases in Israel. So the next question is, what interceptors? Because there are multiple types of interceptors. There are aircraft that fly with a precision kill kit that is essentially a Hydra rocket that has a little laser seeker on it that can take out drones. There's also interceptors on ships at sea, such as the SM-6. And the SM-6 can be carried by aircraft as well, such as the F-18 Super Hornet. So are you saying that we have no more SM-6s? We have no more precision kill kits? But, I guess what they're doing here is that they're implying that Patriot and THAAD interceptors are essentially, we're running low on them. Which is funny because nobody actually knows how many interceptors the U.S. has. Nobody actually knows how many interceptors anybody has. That is a secret. So that means you either receive classified information, which in this case the FBI is going to kick in your door pretty soon, or you don't know what you're talking about. It is one of these two things. And to illustrate, it is very
What do you think of magnesium glycinate? Is it good for sleep and recovery? Definitely helps with sleep. Recovery, I don't know how that would help, but things like muscle soreness, it can help, like perceived soreness. Like it is an electrolyte, so it's kind of necessary for allowing your muscles to relax.
Very rare for the manufacturers of these weapon systems to announce the number of interceptors that are being produced when contracts are announced. For example, in 2018, Raytheon announced a $3.3 billion Patriot deal with the UAE. Exact numbers of missiles were not announced. Taiwan in 2009, exact numbers were not announced. Poland in 2018, exact numbers were not announced. Switzerland in 2023, they bought a quantity of guidance-enhanced missiles. Like, not a lot of numbers there. The fact is that I don't know how many interceptors exist in the world, and you don't either. Now, I will say that the people at CENTCOM are not stupid. You know, they have war-gamed this for about 25 years. And they have a floor of interceptor missiles, and they're really not going to get concerned until they get to that, close to that floor, right? Or the number falls below that floor. But theater air defense systems like Patriot and THAAD, they're not shields. They're not designed to be shields. They're designed to be that little umbrella you keep in your car in case it's raining when you have to go to the supermarket. It's just designed to get you from your car to the supermarket and back again, and you're going to get a little wet. But imagine how wet you'd get if you didn't have the umbrella, right? So these systems, THAAD, Patriot, they're not designed to shoot down tiny little drones. We are not shooting $4 million missiles at $20,000 drones. We have other weapons that do that.
Any supplements that improve sleep that actually work? Melatonin, magnesium glycinate. Those are the only ones that I know of.
You strike the archer and not the arrow. Now, this was said in Parliament.
Our bases have already been attacked. Iran is trying to kill our servicemen and women. He is catching arrows rather than stopping the archer. That's what we're talking about.
Thanks for the credit, by the way. But that's why you go after the launchers. You strike the archer and not the arrow. Now, there's also an accusation that Iran knows this and they had intentionally kept back their biggest, most advanced and deadly cruise missiles. Attempts by the U.S. to destroy these missiles have failed, and a good portion remain operational and ready to launch. A number of people have said this, including famed entertainer Scott Ritter. But this is an incredibly stupid strategy if you were doing it, because every single day that you wait to fire is another day that the U.S. can find, fix, and finish your command and control. And we are rapidly hitting those targets, the people who can actually pick up the phone and say, yes, launch a missile at this target. Every single day that passes is another day when we're hitting Iranian command and control, and we're actually discovering where these missiles are, and we're hitting them as well. Remember, shoot the archer, not the arrow. That is the whole point of this. So if you think of a game of hide and seek, right? You're playing hide and seek as a child in a house. There's a limited number of places you can hide in the house, and eventually you will be found. And even then, like, just for kicks, let's pretend that Iran has 1,000 missiles as well as accompanying launchers, because not every missile can fit on every launcher. But let's say they have 1,000 missiles and launchers, along with 1-ton warheads that they're saving in reserve when the U.S. runs out of interceptors. All right, so that means you have a total destructive power of 1,000 tons. The average raid of bombers during World War II was a little over 1,000 tons per night, like dropped on Germany every single night. So if these Iranian super weapons exist and are hidden and they launch them, they have less destructive power than a raid that the US performed over Germany 80 years ago. All right, another item. China is weighing an invasion of Taiwan by July this year because of the very real distraction and depletion of US military stockpiles, troops, and resources for the Iran conflict. Okay, so there's a lot wrong with this sentence, and it shows that the people who crafted this have no idea how invasions work. If you had read the Naval War College paper, How China Might Invade Taiwan, you would know that there's really only 2 weather windows in which to invade Taiwan, like April and October. But outside of that, it's monsoon season. The weather is just too bad to perform a landing. And if you look at something like the JLOTs, or Joint Logistics Over the Shore, that we tried to build in Gaza to deliver humanitarian aid, that could be a video on its own. That was an absolute disaster because we used the wrong tool for the wrong job. That thing broke apart due to a little bad weather in a relatively permissive environment. Now imagine trying to keep something like that intact when every single Taiwanese dude is shooting at you. So good luck with that. This also mentions a Chinese invasion decision due to the depletion of U.S. military stockpiles, troops, and resources. And the fact is that a Taiwan fight is a different...
So you're going to start coming down at the end of the month, or are you going to use Retta or another peptide to help? No. It's just not necessary. It's an added expense. So what? No, I'm not.
Kind of fight than what we're seeing in Iran. It's more of a naval-based fight, and so that's when we're going to be using things like Harpoon missiles or LRASM. Tomahawk might be used for shore targets, and the biggest concern for me is Tomahawk. It's not necessarily interceptors. We will have to engage incoming warheads that are going into Korea and Japan, because China is not going to be able to leave Korea and Japan untouched. But the biggest concern are the long-range cruise missiles. We need as many of those as possible. And that's why as soon as we reduced the threat in Iran...
Girl at the gym came over and said that's very impressive when I was doing weighted pull-ups. She being friendly or flirting? Flirting.
We started switching over to just dropping gravity bombs, or even gravity bombs with precision kits on them. Things like JDAM. And we have plenty of these gravity bombs. Next, there's the accusation that U.S. casualties have easily reached 500, with many injured and dead that have not been admitted to by the Pentagon. Only someone who doesn't know how the casualty notification process works would say something like this. And the fact is that the U.S. is not Russia. We can't hide our casualties. And I invite you to give me one example where the U.S. managed to hide casualty data. I'm not even saying give me 10 examples. Give me one example in history where the U.S. withheld casualty data longer than 24 hours or so, more than enough time to inform the family. 500 casualties is such an absurd number that it defies all credibility. If we had done this, Seymour Hersh would have been all over a story like this, right? It usually takes about 24 hours from when the casualty is announced to the public release of that information. A lot of that depends on family notification. You can't hide bodies going back to Dover. You can't hide wounded coming back to Longstool. Eventually that information will get out because it is a very big army. Next is the claim that America lost 4 fixed-wing aircraft, more than we lost in 20 years of war combined. So I'll tell you this, if you think that's bad, wait until you find out how many aircraft the U.S. loses in peacetime, because it's a lot. In 2025 alone, we lost an F-35, we lost a Growler, an F-18 fell off a carrier into the sea twice. Another Super Hornet crashed off the coast of Virginia, and an F-16 from the Thunderbirds crashed. And, you know, I haven't even gotten to the helicopter crashes, right? Like, it's amazing they stay in the air in the first place. The fact is that flying is dangerous. Military flying is even more dangerous. In wartime or in peacetime, it's still dangerous. And saying that we lost 4 aircraft and more than we lost in 20 years of war combined, it ignores the fact that we tend to lose 4 aircraft just doing training every year, at least 4 aircraft. So it's a statistic that's designed to shock without actually revealing more of the underlying data. So it's a tactic that a lot of people use when they want to make a point, but actually want to hide information. This wouldn't make any sense unless you're trying to manipulate the data. Then they go on to claim these aircraft were not shot down accidentally, referring to the 3 F-15s and the 1 tanker. They say that these aircraft were not shot down accidentally, as previously thought. They were down by sympathizers in the Kuwaiti Air Force. And this shows a deep lack of understanding between Sunni and Shia Islam, as well as a lack of understanding about how a lot of Arab air forces work. The same lack of understanding that frickin' fake Professor Ping Pong claimed when he said that Iran would unite the Arab world. Kuwait is mostly Sunni Muslims. Iran is mostly Shia Muslims. Now, in countries like Kuwait, where there is mandatory military service, pilots are mainly the sons of the elite. And this is so they can perform their service looking jaunty instead of kicking rocks in the army. So you're telling me, with a straight face, that a pilot who likely comes from a rich, wealthy Sunni family is going to throw his entire career and maybe even life away to support a country of Shia Muslims that is actively attacking him and made up of blasphemers? Good luck with that. Like, it would be like Eric Trump joining ISIS. Like, this just wouldn't happen. Eric Trump wouldn't throw his life away to join ISIS. Some Kuwaiti pilot who's living a pretty good life right now is not going to throw his life away for a bunch of, I don't want to say non-believers, but Shia and Sunni do not get along. Then there's the section, Russia and China have captured data from combat operations providing satellite intelligence support to Iran. It is almost certain that that is happening, although the effectiveness is extremely questionable, mainly because of the OODA loop, or Observe, Orient, Decide Act. We have smashed Iranian command and control to the point that commanders are literally hiding in their bunkers afraid of their phones. If it takes 5 minutes to go from Russian-provided intelligence to the actual point where you're launching a missile, then we would be seeing a heck of a lot more casualties. The Russians would be saying, hey, these F-15s just took off, they're heading toward this place, they're going to come back in 3 hours, and then the Iranians would time their drones to land, they'd head toward that runway just as the F-15s are landing, right? That's what they would do. But we haven't seen any of that. If Russia gives Iran intelligence and Iran can't act on it because every time one of their commanders picks up a phone, they don't exist anymore, we turn them into a black smudge, then what? Then they can't order stuff they can't send orders to their subordinate units, and they can't send orders to their subordinate units quickly. And if the time is 12 hours between when Russia gives intelligence and that information gets down to the people who are actually firing these weapons, that intelligence is useless by that point. Then the narrative continues. As part of this, they have cracked the signal communications for America's B-2 bombers. I can't even get through that one with a straight face, but okay. Meaning that one of our primary deployment means for nuclear weapons, previously stealth and untraceable on radar, can be tracked in flight, shot down, a major blow to nuclear deterrence and the mad threat against other superpowers. Again, this statement is incredibly absurd. Radios are typically encrypted with a key, and that key is changed every day. So let's say by some magical means you did break encryption. We would just switch to a different key, a randomly generated key. So good luck with that. And the B-2 is not the only way to deliver a nuclear weapon. In fact, it's probably the most inefficient way of delivering one, since we only have like 19 or maybe 20 if you count the test aircraft. But we have hundreds of nuclear warheads on submarines and land-based silos, and also fighters can deliver nuclear weapons as well. So again, it's kind of an absurd claim on its face. So what you have here is a bunch of conspiracy theorists who are parroting Russian and Iranian talking points that defy all logic and explanation, but might sound good if you know nothing about the military. You are not America first. Edward Saul and Lauren Whiskey, you people who run this garbage, you should be ashamed of yourself. And that's kind of one thing I feel like we've lost as a nation, shame. It feels like people aren't ashamed anymore, ashamed when we're wrong, ashamed when we're proven wrong, ashamed to grift people for money, putting out garbage that we know is wrong. We platform conspiracy.
Well, TikTok generation. So yeah, Iran's getting clapped. That's all you need to know. I was planning on streaming for longer, but I'm literally falling asleep. I literally can't stay awake. I didn't even take the weed gummy I was planning on taking. I'm just fucking tired as shit. So I don't think there's any point in me like trying to keep streaming if I'm like literally nodding off. So I think I'm just gonna call it a night for tonight, but big thanks to everybody who donated in Streamlabs. Really appreciate it. I just need some more sleep today, I guess, but I will be on tomorrow. Playing more games, reacting to more stuff, the usual. But thanks again, everybody. $8 VG. I heard people like Enforcer saying that there might be a coup going on in Russia, and even Russian propagandists are calling for Putin's arrest. What is your understanding of this? Wouldn't surprise me. Like, I mean, the war is terrible for Russia. So yeah, it wouldn't surprise me at all. I'll believe it when I see it. It's plausible. I just don't know enough about that, but certainly possible. Thanks for the donation, though, but thanks again, everybody. I will see you all tomorrow, and sweet dreams.